I've been away on holiday and then a couple of things have happened on the home front, but I'm back and mentally ready to do some more videos. So I wanted to start on the topic of tasks. But before I jump into the functionality, I just wanted to make sure that we were all on the same page and understand the options that Xplan has. When I was training, I'd usually just talk this through and squiggle it on the whiteboard. So I thought I'd do it again here, and because it's my channel, I can indulge myself and do flowers and colors and all that kind of stuff, okay? All right, so let's start. So in Xplan, when you want someone to do something, you assign them a task, and you can even assign yourself a task as a reminder to do something. So I think now that a lot of us work from home, but we're still part of a team, it's easier to understand why we need to have a system to track our workflow. But when I first started working in financial planning, the early 2000s, we're all in an office. You just kind of turn around and swivel your chair and ask the next person a question like, why would you bother putting it into an online system? So I just wanted to address that so we're all on the same page. If all the tasks are in Xplan, then we all know what we're doing without having to wait for someone to come back from a meeting, without having to shout across the room at someone or, walk across if you're civilized. Because you might be disturbing that other person. They're in deep focus, okay? Right? And then also, if I'm sick for a whole week and we're not using Xplan, how is anyone going to know what's happening and what's urgent? Like, are they going to wade through all my snotty tissues on the table or try and understand, my bad handwriting on the whiteboard? Or are they going to look through all my notebooks? So if it's in Xplan, no one has to call me while I'm dying at home and ask what's urgent. They just look it up in the system and they help me out until I'm back, right? Having tasks in Xplan means that everyone knows each other's workload. You can search by assignee, assigner, it's transparent. So if I'm a practice manager and I see that you have 100 tasks and your colleague has none, then in bulk, I'm just going to take 50 and give it to the other person, rather than wait for the point where you're in tears because you're overworked. I can be proactive about managing everyone's workflow. And the other reason to put tasks in Xplan is if you're that person who has zero tasks, I think that you're free to help out. And then I've suddenly dumped 50 tasks on you and you go, hang on, I've got lots to do. Like it was all in my head. And it's like, well, how am I supposed to know if it's in your head? Like, why don't you have it in the system? How am I supposed to run the business if I don't know what's happening? So that's tasks, okay? Tasks is when you assign someone something to do. Could be yourself. All right, so next concept is threads. So in Xplan, you can set up the tasks to daisy chain to each other, okay? That's called a thread. And completing the first task will auto-activate or kick off the next task. So if we think about having a new business flow, it might be, the advisor has a fact find meeting. All right, task done. Then it goes to the administrator, data enter all the information into Xplan. That's done. Complete the task. All right, next task comes up. Power planner do something else, okay? So they're daisy chained together, okay? So no one has to manually remember to tell the next person to do something. No one even has to remember who the next person is. It's just set up in Xplan. Just complete the task, off it goes to the next person. And you can set up email notifications as well if you want to. And then there's also a widget that we can set up that can tell us where tasks are per thread or case. So I used to have a look at that every day. I will talk about what a case is in a moment. And so, I used to have a look at it every day and say, okay, for this thread or case, it's bottlenecked here. This person has, like more than 10 sitting with them. And then I can say, oh, can I help? Also, what might happen in some practices is that people might be doing the work but not completing the task. So they get to Friday and they go, oh no, I have to complete all the tasks. Boom, 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 they complete. It auto kicks off to the next person. The next person's been diligently doing it all week. And then, whoa, suddenly stress. Friday afternoon, they have a million things to do. It's not very fair, right? So That's another reason why you might want to use a widget like that. And we'll come to the last concept I wanted to go through, and that's cases. So, because I think I'm a visual person, and when I think of cases, I imagine a little tiny suitcase. I don't know if you've seen them in office work, so I'll put a picture up. But in the case, you can have a thread, which are these daisy chained tasks to each other, and additionally, you can have benchmarks, which is kind of like a checklist of things that need to be done. Which makes sense because if you think again about the new business workflow, right? You want proof that certain things are done. So you might need a scanned copy of the fact find, and that might be in a file note. So last I knew, there wasn't a neat way to get an existing thread into a case. But write in the comments if I'm out of date. But for that reason, if you're going to do a longer workflow, I suggest you build it as a case because then you are future-proofing yourself. Think about how handy it would be for your licensee's auditor when they come to do, their quarterly or half a yearly check, that they just go to the case and they see everything's there. It's like, oh yeah, these are all the people that worked with us, these are all the steps that were taken, the tasks that were done. Oh yeah, here are all the benchmarks or checklists that have been ticked off. Yeah, there's a scanned copy of this. Yeah, this has been input correctly. Here's the research scenario done. Yeah, they'll be so impressed by how organized you are, right? Okay, so with all of us now on a level playing field of understanding, over the next few weeks, I'm going to go through the traditional way of doing tasks, and then together we'll explore the new way of doing tasks, which is that Kanban style look, which I've never used before, so we'll be learning it together.